Alright, so, third question for the day. In the ever-changing landscape of today, where we have a lot of life goals, life accomplishments, kind of boxes along the way to check off, what is really a good, objective, or even maybe very subjective marker of if we are achieving enough for ourselves every day? And what I mean by that is, really, do you feel like every day you're succeeding and enough in different areas to really claim that you're improving as a human, as a person, building the skills you want to have, working on yourself, enjoying time with friends, with family, crafting those new memories, new experiences for lifelong fulfillment? Basically, how do we judge that? Because I think for a lot of people, myself included, where we don't have the most traditional journey of understanding what we should be doing, it can be really, really hard to figure out, what should my life be about? Why am I doing what I do? Am I doing enough? Am I doing too much in some things? How do we find that balance? And how do we really center in on that? Because ultimately, I think the conclusion a lot of people have come to, and what I agree with pretty substantially, is that life is all about balance in a lot of aspects. But how do we find that? And how do we know that we found that, you know? Because nobody's going to come along and just tell us we're right. And if they do, we shouldn't believe them. Because while they might be, supporting us, building our confidence, pointing us in the right direction, they don't know everything about who we are and who we want ourselves to be. That is a decision that can only be found in ourselves, and therefore, you really have to chart your own course. The very, very famous philosopher Carl Jung once said, "If the path you're on is clear, it's probably someone else's." And I just absolutely love that quote. For a variety of reasons. One, because I think it's totally true. If things in life ahead seem clear, unless you've planned out very, very carefully, that's not really a path that you've constructed on your own, so to speak. You've allowed yourself to step into the framework of something that you may or may not have a great time with. I think that can absolutely be great in the right situations, but you gotta understand that's not you controlling your life, really. It's just you kind of like still washing along with it, You're going with the flow, which is fine, but you're not always going to find the most enriching, the most valuable, the most worthwhile building blocks of yourself through just that flow. You have to really go off stream, go against the flow, something where your resistance there is bringing you one step closer to finding something really vital, really pivotal about yourself. That's at least what I believe. I think there's definitely times to just go with the flow, see where it takes you. Not every person is going to be able to constantly be resisting stuff, and I don't think there's a lot of things we need to, because frankly, sometimes going with the flow, overall, easiest, best solution. But we shouldn't always do it, and that's really the trap I see a lot of people running into, is we go with what is created by our environment. We go with what our parents have told us to do. We go with the expectations, placed on us by a variety of things. Just throw society out there, always sounds like a good term. But again, like friends, family, career path, personal pursuits like hobbies, skills, creative endeavors, anything of that sort, really, where I don't know how much of it is genuine. Especially if I were to cite a fairly pertinent example of college applications, where people are creating kind of like fakeness to their very lives just to appeal to, an institution that isn't really gonna, they care, but is it really a good judge of you, or is it a judge of the you they want to see? And I think while those two have some overlap, they're not perfectly indistinguishable, and your end goal there should not be to appeal to anything else, any other body, organization, person, whatsoever. I think you should be you for you. Let me recap this a little bit. So, I think you need to do you. Find things you like, things that make up you. Really chart your own course there. And that's the thing everyone says, but know that you're going to run into resistance. Know that you're going to be tempted to follow the basic flow of what everyone is doing, what everyone wants you to do. Try and find some elements in that to resist. Not everything. Some things you're going to have to go with based on circumstances. Again, things are very circumstance dependent. That's why judgment, critical thinking, always going to be beautiful tools in your kit to really assess stuff. And you're going to make mistakes. Nobody can achieve the perfect life. And I think a life that is perfect by that standard of having never failed is actually a life that's more flawed than one where someone like continuously fails, gets back up, tries again, learns, innovates, and really builds himself through that. If you don't fail, if you don't take those steps on your own, search for the things that may or may not work, and come back brokenhearted only to rise again, to me that's maybe the most philosophical definition of progress. It's failure which emboldens change. And I like that a lot, just in that everyone fails, or everyone should fail. And I think that's where we see a lot of drive that comes from that. To me, that really builds you on a personal level. So I'm getting very long-winded, but how do we look at that drive? And really, to what extent should the individual try and develop themselves? Again, there's a lot of things to go on there, where some things are worth undertaking for the betterment of your future and having you not really resist them, go with the flow. But there are other things that I think are very insidiously against having us find ourselves. So if there's anything you want to bring up in the comments, please let me know. Especially in this case, I think it'd be cool to hear any examples people can think of. Stuff where either they see some weak points in my argument, stuff they did because everyone else it was great, worked out. I admit that honestly could be pretty cool. Tell me about it. And then other stuff too, where kind of seeing the stuff they didn't like and going against the flow, they're kind of moving out of everyone else's path to do their own thing. I think those are also really powerful examples, and both have their time and place. So please tell me anything in the comments. I'm sorry for this being so ridiculously long-winded, but I had fun with it. So if you had fun, I had fun. Everyone had fun. Yeah, that's about it. See you.